After getting swept in the second round this year and not really having a loud off-season, the Denver Nuggets come into the 2021-22 season with quite interesting expectations. The second star, Jamal Murray, had a season-ending injury last season, and that alone basically ruined all their title aspirations. They come into the 2021-22 seasons with expectations which are not consistent around the NBA fan base, and I want to talk about that.
They be like, what? Can you teach me how to dirty? You know why? Cause all the bitches love it. All I need is a beat that's super bumpin'. And for you to back it up and dump it.
Leave a like on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I make very regular NBA content, and if this interests you, do subscribe to the channel. Moving on to the video. So what are my expectations for the Denver Nuggets this year? It completely relies on one man, Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray came off one of the most explosive, mind-blowing, breathtaking playoff runs in recent history to the 2020-21 NBA season. And he actually had an amazing season until he got injured, putting up 21 and 5 on ridiculous efficiency. The leap he took in the playoffs the previous season was not a one-time wonder, and he proved that with his off-the-chart shot making in the clutch and spectacular two-man game with Nikola Jokic. Keeping this in mind and Michael Porter Jr.'s constant rise, the Denver Nuggets made a move in the deadline indicating that they're ready to be a top tier contender in the West. But then Jamal Murray tore his ACL, and though the Nuggets did make it to the second round of the playoffs, it was quite obvious that they were missing Jamal Murray in the playoffs and the constant fire he provides on the offensive end. A ACL tear usually takes 7 to 9 months for recovery, and knowing that the Nuggets really don't need to rush Murray back into the team, Murray should be back around January or February after a complete recovery. This gives the Nuggets and Jamal Murray 1 or 2 months for him to ease back into the lineup and for him to get back to his pre-injury self. This question, whether Murray can get back to his pre-injury self, is the difference between the second best team in the Western Conference and another second round exit for the Nuggets. If Murray does get back to his pre-injury self or something close to it by the time of the playoffs, I strongly believe that the Denver Nuggets are the second best team in the Western Conference. Yes, I believe the Nuggets have the potential to be the second best team in the Western Conference. And obviously, the biggest reason for that is Nikola Jokic, but there are other factors too. Let's start off by talking about the league MVP, the Joker and the best offensive player in the league right now, in my opinion. If you think Jokic won the MVP last year only because of the health of the other players or anything mildly similar, suggesting that Jokic didn't deserve the MVP last year, you are objectively wrong, and I don't care otherwise. Jokic averaged 26.5 points, 11 rebounds and 8.3 assists on 56, 39 and 97 splits. This is one of the most efficient seasons while putting up damn near a triple-double. To put it in context, Jokic was quite close to averaging a 27-point triple-double on near 50, 40, 90 efficiency. What Jokic did last year was historic, and he is not going to get any worse, and I can promise you that. Nikola Jokic led the league in PER, win shares, offensive win shares, box plus minus, and offensive box plus minus. He dominated the league in offensive advanced stats and traditional stats. He is the best passer in the league and one of the best playmakers in the league. He had one of the greatest offensive seasons in NBA history and did this without a second best player available for the end of the season. And guess what? The Nuggets went 12 and 5 without Murray last year, and Jokic was a major catalyst for this. He carried the Nuggets over the Portland Trailblazers in the playoffs, a Trailblazers team which had the second best point guard in the league and the clutchest player of our generation, Damian Lillard, along with his healthy supporting cast. What Jokic did last year is nothing short of mind-blowing, and he very well may do it again this year. I don't think people appreciate his season and the fact that he might very well have a similar season again, and that with enough support and a good record, Jokic might win the MVP again, and I really wouldn't be surprised. But in my opinion, what puts this Nuggets team over the hump and solidly into the contender tier when all healthy is one of the most talented and overqualified third star slash scorers in the league in Michael Porter Jr. MPJ is the favorite to win Most Improved Player next year, and that is while coming off a Most Improved Player type of campaign last year. His constant growth at an expeditious rate and his hand in a glove fit next to Nikola Jokic give the Nuggets an opportunity for a lot more plays to run in the half court, and this just makes life harder for opposing defenders. Having to guard the best offensive player in the league and MVP is one thing. Over that, having to guard a top 3 off-ball player in the league, whose release point is higher than the Eiffel Tower, is just unfair. Imagine a Murray and Jokic pick and roll. If the defense collapses, Michael Porter Jr. is getting an open spot of 3 on the weak side, and I promise you he's hitting that shot more often than not. If you do not double team Jamal Murray, he shoots 40% from 3 and is one of the best guard finishers in the league. If you double team Murray, you leave Nikola Jokic open. And if you double team Jokic, you're asking the best playmaker in the league to make a pass, and he is going to do that. Just imagining it is giving me literal chills, and I can't wait to see this in action. Let's not talk about the team aside from the big 3, and then I'll tell you what my expectations for this team will be if Jamal Murray is not what you expect him to be. So let's start off with the depth they have at the forward position. Michael Porter Jr., as mentioned before, will be playing most of the minutes at the small forward. I do hope he gets better at defense this season, because even after his improvement last year, he's still god awful at that end. Jeff Green and Aaron Gordon provide them a lot of defensive versatility at the 4 position, which is required alongside Jokic, though Jokic isn't a bad defender by any means. I can see them playing Aaron Gordon at the 3, Jeff Green at the 4 and Jokic at the 5, but Gordon at the 3 didn't really work out when he played that in Orlando. But in my opinion, as long as he can guard small forwards, which I believe that he can, and he showed us that he can last year, he'll be fine on offense because he'll be alongside Nikola Jokic this time. This is one of the best power forward rotations in the league, and I really believe people are underrating the depth of a healthy Nuggets team. In the guard positions, aside from an injured Jamal Murray, they have Monte Morris, one of the best backup point guards in recent history, and they also have both Campazzo and Shaq Harrison, who provide them more offense and defense respectively based on the requirement of the Nuggets team. At the shooting guard position, they have Will Barton, who is a very underrated NBA player and a guy who can provide you with 20 points on any given night and make up for Jamal Murray's lost production to a certain extent. They also have Austin Rivers and PJ Dozier to back him up, and that again is a great second and third string shooting guard to have on your team. At the center position, though they lost the greatest rotational pick of all time in JaVale McGee, they have Jeff Green, who can give them some small ball 5 minutes, and they also have a rookie in Zeke Naji who has decent potential in my opinion. And they also have Bol Bol, who is just the greatest basketball player of all time, and his name itself is self-explanatory. I hope Bol Bol can get a change in scenery just so that he can showcase his game and talents. This is basically the depth of the Nuggets team, and the only place they might be struggling is the backup center position, but when you have Nikola Jokic, who is one of the least injury prone players in the league, and a player when it matters the most will probably play a full 48 minutes without a problem, it really doesn't matter who they have as a backup for him. They have one of the best starting fives in the league, and they have the second best offensive ceiling aside from the Nets in my opinion. They might have slight defensive issues, but they'll still be a mediocre defense, and that's more than enough with the ridiculous talents they have offensively. Moving on to my expectations with this team if Jamal Murray isn't up to pre-injury Murray self. Firstly, this gives them a problem of having quite a big contract to move, because in all seriousness, ACL injuries are one of the hardest injuries to come back from, and for a guy like Jamal Murray, who relies a lot on his explosiveness and his quick first step to get to the rim and pressurize defenses, this should give him some issues. And if this does happen, I believe the Nuggets are still very underrated dark horses at the least. When you have Nikola Jokic, who can be the best player on any possible night against any player in the league, and he can be the best player in an entire playoff series, that raises your chances of winning by a lot. Put him with Jamal Murray, who still at the least will provide them great shooting alongside Jokic, and Michael Porter Jr., a player who I expect to take a jump as high as an all-star or a fringe all-star at the least this year. It gives you a chance to beat any team in the Western Conference. Though they won't be favorites without Jamal Murray, they are without a doubt a second round team at the least just by the virtue of having Nikola Jokic. And they are a potential conference final threat with a bit of luck with their side and amazing play around the team. And with the pre-injury Murray, as mentioned before, they are my second favorite team in the Western Conference, and depending on the fit issues the Lakers might have, they have the potential to be my favorite team to come out of the Western Conference. With that, we have come to the end of the video, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out my other off-season content, and of course, like and subscribe.